What if I told you that Jesus Christ, one of our most sacred historical figures, contained not only spiritual but also extraterrestrial secrets? Today, we will discuss some intriguing topics, my friend. If you are new here, feel free to join us in our community space on this channel. In the first part of this video, we will talk about who they were and the surprising claims about their influence on our people. In the second part, we will investigate the specific roles they played in shaping our genetic makeup and social structures. So, stay with us until the end, because something strange may still exist, buried on Earth. So, Anunnakis, do you know who they are? These beings, whose influence may have shaped the very foundations of our civilization, and possibly even manifested through Jesus itself. Dolores Cannon, through her meticulous research and regressive hypnotherapy, has opened a window into these forgotten times. Her work not only challenges our understanding, but also invites us to consider our potential as a species. Our DNA shares striking similarities with those of the Anunnaki, who originated from the Pleiadian star cluster, particularly the Seven Sisters. Intense interstellar conflicts forced this celestial cohort to flee their star system over 450,000 years ago, and they sought refuge on our planet. Unlike the typical depictions of extraterrestrials, the Anunnaki are hominids, bipedal and remarkably similar to humans in appearance and genetic makeup. These beings were part of a spacefaring civilization that escaped from their native star system due to a catastrophic galactic war, reminiscent of the destructive scenarios often depicted in science fiction like Star Wars. This conflict involved incredibly powerful weapons capable of annihilating entire planets, known as Brahma Astra and Brahma Astra Honda, forcing them to become refugees in space. The ancient texts, including the Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, and various Vedic scriptures, document these events and suggest that such weapons and wars were not just fictional tales, but historical realities. These sources, in conjunction with Sumerian texts such as the Enuma Elish, offer the initial proof of space refugees. This exodus brought the Anunnaki to Earth, where they established the Atlantean civilization, transforming the planet's landscape and influencing other ancient civilizations globally. Their arrival marked the beginning of significant cultural and technological exchanges, which shaped the developmental trajectory of these early societies. The tale of Atlantis, as told by Plato and other historical texts, lends credence to the idea that the Anunnaki had an impact on every continent far beyond their immediate geographical surroundings. This perspective I present to you aligns with the discovery of numerous pyramids in the Americas, which some believe were originally Atlantean structures repurposed by later civilizations, including the Catholic Church, in a historical cover-up. Raised within the Catholic faith, many are unaware of the darker chapters of the Church's history, particularly the role it played during the Papal Inquisitions. During this period, the Church was not merely spreading the gospel, it was enforcing its will through extreme measures, including the torture and murder of millions, to consolidate Christianity's hold across the globe. These inquisitions were not just about converting non-believers, but also involved a systematic eradication of civilizations and their sciences that predated or conflicted with Christian doctrines. This aggressive imposition, often masked under the guise of spreading the good news, led to widespread cultural and physical devastation, similar to a powerful nation exploiting another for its resources under the pretext of liberation. The Church's legacy includes the alteration of historical landscapes, most notably the transformation of ancient pyramids into Christian sites. Demolished or repurposed, these ancient structures, once centers of different cultural and spiritual significance, have lost much of their identity. During the colonial era, the Americas witnessed the topping or conversion of numerous events, such as this one. Exploring these sites today, like the pyramids in Mexico City before they were fully excavated, offers a glimpse into the layers of history shaped by religious conquests. These remnants talk about a time when monumental architecture was repurposed to serve the expanding agenda of the church, forever changing the cultural landscape. In this part, we're unpacking some fascinating interactions between early humans and the Anunnaki. When these space visitors landed on Earth, they didn't bump into modern humans, but rather our earlier cousins, Homo erectus. These guys weren't just about brawn. They had a whole different vibe of intelligence. The problem is, with the Anunnaki workers, known as the Igigi, they were feeling seriously overworked and underappreciated after centuries of mining gold in what's now South Africa. Imagine working non-stop with no break and not enough company. It was tough. They were so fed up that they almost started a massive rebellion. Enki, one of the high command leaders, came up with a plan. Instead of creating robots, which they tried and failed back on their home planet, he thought, why not upgrade the locals? So they started tweaking the genetics of Homo erectus, giving rise to us, modern humans. This was their solution to lighten the workload, turn the existing Earth inhabitants into a more capable workforce. This bit of engineering wasn't just about labor. It set the stage for all sorts of human advancements. It's wild to think our development might have gotten a nudge from interstellar visitors, and all those offerings of the best harvests and livestock we read about in myths. That was their way of keeping the food supply rolling for these so-called gods. They could communicate over long distances using the architecture itself, which is pretty mind-blowing. It's like they had their own version of a loudspeaker, turning whole buildings into megaphones. So, they are just using humans as their farm team? Or was there more to this interaction? It's a mystery that keeps us looking at ancient ruins and wondering, what really went down back then? In this part of our video, we're looking into some really eye-opening stuff about Egypt and how it connects to theories about Jesus Christ being more than just an enigmatic figure. I highly recommend you make a tour of Egypt and go to see firsthand where the Egyptians stored huge amounts of food in the temples. These weren't just spiritual places, but practical ones, like giant grocery stores. This idea of gods needing food from humans changes how we might see these so-called divine beings. They weren't just mystical entities, but had practical needs just like us, relying on humans to provide for them. Now, let's talk about Jesus. Some think he might have had a bit of alien in him, like he was part of the Anunnaki, or had connections to them. The Apocrypha and some ancient texts not included in the standard Bible talk about miraculous births in his family, suggesting there might have been some unusual genetic tweaks from way back. It's like something out of a sci-fi story, right? Then there's Thoth the Atlantean, a wise guy who supposedly helped advance human societies. Some people think Jesus could have been a reincarnation of Thoth, sent to guide humanity to a better path. This idea suggests that the wisdom Jesus shared might have been part of a bigger plan by advanced beings to boost human development. If you stop to think about our chronological history with the Emerald Tablets and the Bible, this kind of makes sense. So, when we hear these theories, they make us wonder if there's more to our spiritual and cultural histories than we might have thought. Could our religious figures have been influenced by visitors from the stars? It's a wild thought that opens up lots of possibilities about our past and where our beliefs come from. So, think about the Aboriginal tribes in the Australian outback. There were a lot of Proto-Egyptian hieroglyphs. That's right, way down under in Australia. This just goes to show how interconnected our world really is. Now, these Aboriginal legends speak of the Pleiadians, or what they call the Seven Sisters star cluster, visible in the night sky. Interestingly, this isn't just something you hear about in Australia. Cultures around the world, including the Sumerians and ancient Egyptians, also talk about these stars. They're mentioned everywhere, from Homer's Iliad to the Bible and the Mahabharata. It seems like these stars have always been pretty significant. And here's where it gets even more interesting. You know how there are gaps in the Bible about where Jesus was from ages 12 to 32. Well, there's this text called the Gospel of the Holy 12, and it fills in some blanks. According to this text, Jesus spent time in Egypt, then went off to Tibet and India to learn about spirituality and healing, like Reiki and other mystic arts. And for a more complementary perspective, you can find it in Dolores Cannon's book, Jesus and the Essenes. This book may provide some answers to these enigmatic questions. Through her work, Dolores stumbled upon crucial material shedding light on unexplored events from Jesus' life. These aspects were never mentioned in the Bible. Dolores' journey was undoubtedly profound and inspiring for all the human race. Imagine receiving it during regression sessions based solely on faith and belief, believing in its value, and feeling compelled to share it, even if it challenges established norms and religious beliefs. It's a remarkable experience to have individuals step forward to confirm the information she discovered. She received numerous letters and books from people validating many concepts in her works, and that is amazing. So, why don't we hear about this more? As it turns out, the Standard Bible might have left some parts out or changed things up a bit. Like, there's a big focus on being born again in the Bible, right? But it's not just about getting dunked in water. It's about a kind of spiritual awakening or rebirth that can happen over and over throughout your life. Basically, what we're looking at is a huge, interconnected story that spans across different cultures and teachings, suggesting that maybe there's a lot more to our history than we might think. All right, let's think about what we know from ancient Egypt and the Bible. Fast forward, and this also shows us how Anunnaki wisdom was preserved and handed down through figures like Thoth, who initiated mystery schools in Egypt, which later influenced other high civilizations, including the Maya, through the city of Teotihuacan. This tale intertwines with the story of Akhenaten, an Egyptian pharaoh who radically shifted Egyptian worship towards monotheism under the influence of his belief in a single god, Amen-Ra, challenging the traditional polytheistic norms. So there's this theory that Akhenaten was actually Moses. You heard it right, Moses, from the Bible. Akhenaten was big on the idea of worshipping just one god instead of many, which was a huge shake-up back then. So when he left Egypt, he didn't just sneak out. He took something massive with him, the Ark of the Covenant. This wasn't just any old chest. It was said to be a super advanced piece of tech that could do a ton of stuff, like being a weapon and a power source all rolled into one. And because it was so powerful, when he took it, the Egyptian army was like, "No way, we need that back," and chased after him. People have been trying to make sense of it forever. Some scientists even tried to recreate it, and apparently got it to work. This thing needed special handling because it was basically a giant battery or capacitor that could zap you if you weren't careful. The last known ark was said to be in Ethiopia, but who knows where it might be now. The Great Pyramid itself, where this ark was supposedly kept, was like a giant power plant. Built on top of water, it used the flow to generate electrical energy that shot up through its chambers and out the top, sending power wirelessly to nearby obelisks. It sounds a bit like something Nikola Tesla came up with later, right? So, Akhenaten taking the ark was a big deal. It meant he took the main power source of Egypt. Over time, things changed, and specific people were chosen for special roles, kind of like how Yeshua, or Jesus, was picked for his mission, which might have been about bringing a new kind of awareness to people, something that had been taught way before him. And here's a curious thing. Some of these teachings Jesus shared were similar to what was written on ancient tablets, the teachings from those old mystery schools in Egypt. It's like the stuff Jesus talked about was just a remix of much older spiritual ideas. Alright, let's unravel some more about Jesus, or Yeshua, as he was originally known. Did you know that he was a real person and that there's actual evidence out there? This isn't just a story, it's a historical fact. The Bible mentions, "I call my son out of Egypt." Then, out of nowhere, Jesus reappears in Jerusalem, riding on a donkey at the age of 32. But there's something deeper about Jesus. He represented Christ consciousness, which is this ancient power about reaching a state of ultimate love, knowledge, and service to others, qualities of a truly ascended being. Jesus never said he would return. Instead, he spoke of Christ, or this elevated consciousness, coming back to uplift humanity into a new golden age. It's about realizing that everything in the universe, including us, is connected. We're all part of this massive data collection mission where every experience, every moment is sent back to the source, what you might call God or universal consciousness. This idea that we're all part of God and that God is part of us breaks down the illusion of separation. It's all about tuning into this frequency that connects everything. The human body is like an avatar, designed to channel this spiritual energy. Inside our skulls, there are structures resembling a crown of thorns, but they're actually neural correlates that help lock our consciousness into our physical bodies, along with other elements like magnetite crystals and the neocortex. Did you know that inside all of us, there's an incredible amount of power? It's all about the words we use and the thoughts we have. The ancient Egyptians, or the people from ancient Kemet, knew this well. They spoke a language so powerful that it could literally shape reality. These weren't just words. They were cymatic frequencies, which are like codes that the universe picks up and then turns into reality. It's like we're programming our lives through what we say and think, creating different realities around us. And this isn't just poetic, it's scientifically backed up. Our brains are like supercomputers or microprocessors, tapping into multiple dimensions. Scientists have found that our brains can connect to 11 different dimensions. That means we can access higher knowledge and even higher realms of existence. This all ties into quantum entanglement, a concept I stumbled upon during a walking meditation. It's about connecting particles across vast distances instantly. You change one, and the other changes, no matter how far apart they are. This kind of thinking has led scientists to discover that you can even quantum entangle thoughts between people. Imagine playing a video game with someone in another room, controlling your movements without seeing what you're doing. That's the level of connection we're talking about. And all these thoughts, they're like light waves, forever floating around in this ether we're all part of. That means everything you think, every idea, is out there, mingling with thoughts from everyone else across space and time. What's even cooler is that this isn't limited to just Earth. Thoughts and radio waves, like those from an old I Love Lucy episode, can travel across space. They could be picked up light years away, decoded, and watched, just like they were back in 1960. We're living in what's essentially a giant energetic grid, where concepts like distance and separation are just illusions. Everything is connected. Our thoughts have the power to warp the fabric of reality itself, attracting things into our lives based on the energy we emit. So when we talk about mastering this dimension, it's about understanding that we're really learning how to navigate a vast, interconnected universe. And as we grow and evolve, we can choose our paths, not just here on Earth, but across dimensions. That's the real test of our existence. To live, love, create, and express the best possible versions of ourselves in every dimension we encounter. Thank you for your presence.